Hey everyone, so welcome, and in this tutorial we are going to explore how to implement authentication in Django. We'll also be using Django REST framework to provide our API endpoints. We also going to be using Djoser. So Djoser is an authentication library for Django. We'll also be using the simple JWT package, Django REST framework simple JWT, which will be used to provide tokens to our frontend so that we can give them the client's front end access to our backend. So these tokens are just like identifiers of who we are and who we are. So yes, so we are going to be using that, and then we'll connect that with this React front end that you're seeing here. So in this front end I have already built using React. This one will actually authenticate to our backend. So this is the live application. We have a login page. This one you have a login page where you add your username and password, and then this one is sent to the backend. So if you try to cheat and go to the home route, so this one, when clicking on the logo, you'll go to the home route, but unless you're authenticated, you'll never go to the home route. So this one won't happen. So we also have a sign up endpoint. We actually implement this so people can sign up from the front end, and then the back end and all that will be configured. So how this work? So when you register for an account, we'll send an email to you'll send an email to your account, and that email will be saying like, hey, kindly finish registering from this site. So unless you click that link and then your account is activated, that's when your account will be active and you can actually log in. But unless you do that, that won't happen. So you can log it. You can go to a forget password route. This one is already built. So we have the forget password route here. So if you forget your password, you add an email here, then the email is sent to the backend, and the backend sends a link to your email, the email that you provided when registering, and then on that email you'll have another link, and that link will help you reset your password. So these routes are already built. I've already built all these routes. So we have a route called reset password. You can see this route. So when you click your link from the email, it should bring you here in this endpoint. And then this endpoint needs the whatever you'll be provided in the email will have a UID and the token. So when you come to this route, you add your new password, confirm your new password, then click submit, and then that will be sent to the backend, and then everything will be synced. So this is what you are going to be building. You're going to be using Djoser for authentication, simple JWT, Django REST framework. Now, if you want to follow along with whatever we are doing, I have this repo here. So boniface221/Djoser-tutorial. So you have this repo, and then you can go to this repo. You can clone this repo. Make sure you clone the master branch. The master branch has the backend configuration starter files and then the front end. So you go to this repo. I will add the link in the description. Go to this repo and then clone this or fork or whatever you want, and if you can start this repo to help others know that there is this repo. So in the email addresses, I'll be using a temporary email address because I don't want to use my actual email address. So this is a service that called TempMail that gives you a temporary email address. So let me choose an email address. This is the email address we'll be receiving. So we'll register using this email, and then the email will then whenever Djoser or the backend sends emails, it will send to this service, and then we can continue from there. So let me show you. Actually, I have an account here for the admin. So you can see when you log in, you go to this route. This route is protected, and you saw that we couldn't come to this route. Also, this person is authenticated. So if you try to cheat and go back to the authentication route, you should never go to the authentication route. So we are going to implement all these. So we go to the logout. We are going to be implementing all these using Djoser and simple JWT. So we'll also customize our API homepage to display our information. Throughout this tutorial, we'll encounter some common issues and bugs, and I will guide you how to resolve them. So by the end of this tutorial, you'll have a strong understanding of how JWTs work and how to use them and how Django framework to power our APIs. I hope you enjoy this tutorial and I look forward to hearing your feedback. So let's get started. So now, so this is the application you are going to be building. So as you can see in this folder, I have a front end. This is our front end that has everything that we are going to be building. So this is the front end. So these are front end. So let me explain to you how this one will work. So in this front end, so if you have used React, you'll know how to go about it, but you don't necessarily need to know React to understand the concepts of JWT tokens. So we'll also be using Postman. So this is a Postman. We'll be using this one to send requests to a backend and test them before integrating with the front end. So I'll show you all that. But now this one is a real world scenario. So the first off, so if you know React, you'll understand whatever I'm going to explain, but I'll only explain a little bit of what is happening and how the requests are being made for the backend. So first off, we have this concept of in React, we have the concept of context, where the context is the data that can be accessed anywhere in the application. So when a user logs in, we add the information in the context, and then that information is available everywhere. And then we can do whatever we want with that information. So don't worry about that. So I have this file I've named usefetchquery.jsx. You can see this one is using Axios. So Axios is a library in React to make request to the server, making any request. So I have my base URL. So you can see this base URL is pointing to actual Django server. So here I have created two API instances. We have the first one, API instance, and then the second one. So why do I need two? So in Axios, you can create API instances so that in each API instance, maybe you want to inject a token to the API because the backend expects a token and that token has to be in the headers. So I have some helper methods here. So these helper methods, the first one is to set tokens. So this one will be used to set tokens in the local storage for that token. We have the next one for removing the token. So in case someone is logging out, we have another one to check if a token is valid. And this one makes a request to the backend using this endpoint called auth/JWT/verify. So this one takes in the access token and checks whether the token is valid or not. So I have this helper function to help me. Now here's the real power of Axios. So I want in every request of a person who is authenticated to have that token so that they can be authenticated. So what do? You intercept all the requests being made to from that app, and then you see I have some few checks here. Then you inject the authorization token to that header. So I don't want to go deep into this, but if in case you wanted to know how this app is built, you can write that in the comments so that you can go back and check that. So we are injecting the headers, the authorization headers, with the token that was given when you are logging in. So we also have an interceptor for the responses. So in case the response is 4-1 saying that this person is not authorized. So in case of in a real world scenario, whatever you do is that you check if there is a refresh token, then send a request to the backend to refresh that token. So But in my case, if you are not authorized, I'm going to redirect you to login. And yeah, so we have another helper function called who am I. So this function sends a request to the backend with the slash me. So the slash me, this one is a Djoser endpoint that gives you the information about the current logged in user using the token. So we have another endpoint here for user activation. So you post to this endpoint and then you can activate users. We have another one here for getting auth. So this is for getting auth. This one is for, so when you send a request to the auth JWT slash create, what will happen is that the auth slash JWT slash create, this one is for logging in user. So this one requires a password and a username, and then you'll get a token back. We have others for creating new user. This one is for creating a new user. So this one is for the register handler. You can see all the I've added the comments that you might need to go through these. Also, we have another one for resetting the password. You saw how to reset the password. We have another one here for requesting an email to be sent. I have added comments. So we also have a redirect login. We have an access token getter. Yes. So now next, so I'll show you how this app works. So our main entry point of the app is always the main in a React application. So I'm using React query for making requests. Like it is also used as a caching library. It is very good in managing the requests. I'm also using the React router to route the application. So you can see here any request that comes through the slash, that one goes direct to the, so the slash goes directly to the app, and then we have the auth route which goes directly to the authentication endpoint. Yes, so now we have the React query. So this is how you create a query. I'm also using Chakra UI to style the application. You can see how the application looks nice, and just few lines of code. So if you enter, now we'll start with the app route. So in the application, so this is the, like, any request that comes from the home route. So the home route is the slash route. So I have some few helper functions here, but basically what is happening here. So this one is for just checking if this person is logged in. So, this person has rights to view this endpoint. This is not the endpoint, this is URL. So you can see we are checking, and then if any of these checks don't pass, you will be navigated back to the login route. So I also have a function here. This one is checking who am I. So you remember that function I showed you, the who am I function. So where is that? This one sends a request to the slash me endpoint, and then that slash me endpoint slash me, this one sends a request to the slash me endpoints, and then our data is got back. So now we get our data, and then we do some few checks. You can see, you can check whether you are deactivated. If you are deactivated, no access to the server. If you are active, so I'm doing some few checks, and then finally we'll set this user. So this user will actually be set in the context. So I don't want to go deep into React, but I was just wanting to explain what is happening. So finally you'll be sent to home. So for home, we have the handle logout. So when someone logs out, we set the user to null. So this one is setting a user to nothing, but yes. Also, okay, so we navigate you to the login if you log out, and then you can see this one, welcome home. So if you remember the welcome home we saw, it has a welcome home. So when you are successfully authenticated, you come to this endpoint. So now let's go to the auth route, because this is what we are interested actually in. So now here in the auth routes, I have quite some URLs. We have the first one is the activation route. This one will be responsible for activating the login route. So let me explain the login route first. So we call the get all. This get all we saw is a function that sends a request. So get all. So this get all. You see, according to this function get all. So we are sending a request to the JWT slash create URL, and this one gives us the access token and the refresh token, and you can customize it to return whatever thing you want. So this is basically what we are doing here. So I can collapse this one. We send a request to that, get the data back. So using React query, it's a bit nice working with these asynchronous operations. So you can see we are getting the access and a refresh, setting these tokens to the local storage, then setting that user. So you can see it's a quite a nice thing to do. Basically, that's it. That's it for this. So I'm also using something called React Hook Form. So React Hook Form helps us to so the React Hook Form helps us to working with the forms. So you can see any form, you can attach this register, and then on your form, there's a function called handle submit from React Hook Form. So here, this one you can see use form. Use form is coming from React Hook Form. So whatever you need to know, if you are following along with this one, you don't need to know how React Hook Form works, but your main concern is on this on submit function. So whenever this on submit function is called, we get our credential. And what's our credentials? Our credentials are the username and password. So that's what we are getting here. And then we call this mutation don't mutate the credentials. This one is the actual React query function that sends a post request to the server. So you can see it does that. So whatever you need to know, if you need to console log the credentials, you can do here. You can console log the credentials. After a request is sent, you get this function called on success. Inside the on success, you have the data returned by the server. If there is an error, you have the error from the server. So that's how easy it is to work with this stuff. So now this happens throughout there. So in the password reset, we get the same structure whereby there is a request being sent. So this one is password reset. You can see we are sending a request to the reset password function. So this function reset password. So let me show you that real quick. This one. So you can see reset password. You are sending a request to this with our data. So which is the data? So which is our data? Our data is, so again here we have an on submit that receives the credentials. So you don't need to know the implementation details of how this works, but anyway, there is an on submit function, you get the credentials. Credentials are actually what was in the form. Yes. So the next one, we have the register, same structure, the mutation that sends a request to the backend. We have helper functions. Whatever you want to know is on this on submit, you have the data. So this is the data from the form, and then we submit. We call the mutation dot mutate the credentials. We give it there on submit. So we don't need to know any of these. So this one is for the reset. The reset, we saw that on the request, on the reset, we only need to provide the email so that that workflow can work as it's expected. So that's it for the front end. So we are going to start off with the back end because this is what our main interest is. So now we'll create a backend real quick. So let me create a folder called backend. So you see our folder has been made here, backend. Now I won't go into the implementation, but I'm going to use a tool called pip-env. So this is what I'll be using to manage my virtual environment. I will not go deep into how pip-env works. Maybe you can write down in the comments if you wanted me to go deep into this, how it is working. But basically just install it using this, and then all the other steps you follow instead of using pip. So I don't want to make this tutorial too long, so I will not go deep into how pip-env works. So yes, so you can go on. So the first thing we need it is to initialize this app. So how do you initialize an app using pip-env? So you write pip-env. Let me first see the version I'm running on. So I'm using version 2023.9.8. So to start a virtual environment using ppnv, you just say ppnv shell. So you can see whatever it is doing, it is creating a virtual environment, but it is creating a virtual environment that is not even inside this. So I was supposed to cd. So I was supposed to cd into the backend. I was not supposed to create outside. So the first step is to cd into backend. So the best thing about using ppnv is that so it has already created new. So let me remove this virtual environment real quick. So let me remove that, deactivate. cd cd into the backend. So let me clear all these, retrobit. So a virtual environment was created at this location. So if you really want to know more about ppnv, so you can still use virtual environment, but I'm going to use this one because it manages everything that I do. So it manages everything that I'm doing inside this virtual environment. So not like pip where you have to do pip freeze requirements.txt, but in this scenario, you don't have to do all that. So I'll not go deep into the working details of ppnv. So currently I'm inside my backend folder. So the first thing you do when you want to start a Django project is ppnv install Django. The first thing is to install Django. We are going to install more packages. So let's wait for it to finish. So I'm going to install more packages that we are going to use so that we don't have to go back and install them. So the first one is Djoser. I'm going to use Djoser. We are also going to use another one called Python decouple. Then you're going to use another one called Django REST framework. Django REST framework. We're also going to use another one for reading the. This one we're going to use it for Postgres called psychopg2. That one. We're also going to use another one called Django cause headers. And finally, we are going to use another one called the Django REST framework. Simple JWT. So these are all the libraries you are going to. Oh, I didn't add the word install, so my bad. So we're going to install all these and then you're going to start off our project. So in case you are joining us right now, so whatever you're doing now is setting up the backend server for application. So we have a link into the GitHub account that has the starter files for this project and also the final project. So in that GitHub file, that GitHub account, we have two branches. We have the master and then we have the progress branch. So yeah, you can go here. The progress branch has all the files you need has all the files that you need. So you can go to that, and then if you're joining us right now, then we can move forward. So So you can see all the requirements that I need have been installed. So now if I was using pip, I would have to do pip freeze requirements.txt, but now using ppnv, you don't have to do any of these. So I'm not going back deep into how to use ppnv also. If you need to know about that, you can reach out and then can make a tutorial on that. So sure. So how do we start a Django application? So you have to ask yourself, how do we start a Django application? So to start a Django application, we do Django admin, start project, and then you give it a name. So I'm going to say mine is tutorial. And then, so Django admin, start project, tutorial, and then when you run this command as it is, it will create a new folder, and then inside that folder it will add our project, but we don't want that. So to specify that we want the project files to be created right here, so I can simply run this on so that you can see whatever I'm talking about. So you can see whatever it did, it created a tutorial folder, and then inside that folder it created our tutorial. We don't want this, so how do you prevent that? So let me first remove that. That one is gone. So you run the previous command and then you specify the current folder. So here you can specify any path you want. Maybe you want path slash word, but since you want in the current folder we are in, you provide a dot. So you can see our application has been created, and then we also need an app. So Django admin start app, I'll call this app core. So this one will be our core of authentication and authorization. So which is the next step after installing all those and starting an app in Django? So the first most thing you have to do is going into the installed apps and adding your installed apps. So we have REST framework. So we have REST framework. We have Djoser. So Djoser is for authentication. We have course headers. And then finally we have the core app. So the core app is just basically this app you are seeing here. This is our core app. This is our core app. So you have to add it. So we have few more configurations to do. So before I go further, we need a database configuration. But before we do that, let me add the configuration for our course headers. So in our course headers, you have to add the middleware for the course headers here. So if in case you're wondering why these are coming from, so Django course headers. So you see, you install a Django course headers. We installed that. You come and add the Django course headers in the installed apps. That's what exactly we have done. You come and add the course headers middleware. That's what we're actually doing. Also, you need to configure the allowed origins. So the allowed origins specifies that who is supposed to make requests to our server. So in my case, I'm going to add the origins to allow everyone because yeah, that's it. So I need to, let me come here. Now this is a special variable which says that you allow anybody to make requests to a server, but in a production server you don't need to do this. You need to configure your allowed origins like you have been shown here, you see. So you can also allow methods in the origins. You can see all these. Okay, so yeah, so that's it. So let's continue. So the next thing we need to do is our database configuration. So currently we are using the db.sqlite. I'm not going to use SQLite. In case you want to use SQLite, you can still use SQLite, but I like using Postgres. So I'm going to show you how to use Postgres. So I'm just going to comment out that and then bring on the Postgres configuration. So everything I'm doing here is provided in the you can clone that repo and then you have anything. So there is also another thing I forgot to do. So the current interpreter path selected here is not the actual path we are using. So we are using the Python interpreter, but we need to specify that our interpreter is the virtual environment. So now I showed you how to install the Python decouple package. So everything I'm doing is already here in the notes. So pip install Python decouple, from the decouple import config, and then your secret keys, you can simply reference them using that config. So anything you have in the .env, so that's what exactly is happening. So in our database configuration, so this is for Postgres configuration. So I'm saying I'm adding the engine, the name, the user, and the password. So I'm going to drop two files here in this folder. So I'm going to drop two files. So the first one is so I'm going to drop two files here. Now, so one of these files I'm not going to show you actually because it has my configurations. So I'm just going to show you the env.sample. So the env.sample just specifies whatever you want to use. So we have the secret key, we have the site URL, we have the DB name. So these are the actual variables that are being sourced here. So these are the actual variables that are being sourced here by Postgres connections. So you should not expose anything that is related to your application. So I'm also going to, I have a secret key defined in my, so whatever you do here, the config simply references the .env file. It loads all those variables for you so that you can simply use them. So now the next configuration we need to make is email configuration. So I'm also going to drop some files here for the email configurations. So don't worry about, so these are just email configurations that the email configurations I'm just using. If you go to the .env sample, you can see you need an email backend. I have already added that, the meta backend. So now here in the email host, you need to provide your own email host, your email password, and then the host user. Sure. So that will be sourced by the email configs. So there's also another settings that we need to add here. So let me just drop these settings and then I'll explain whatever we need to do for these settings. So I'll explain them. So we also need to import the time delta from datetime, import time delta. So this one will be used by simple JWT. So you remember we are using simple JWT. So let me go here. So now these are what I have just added. So the first configuration I've added is for REST framework. So in REST framework, you can specify the default permission classes. So by default, the default permission classes is for allowing anyone in this application to access it. So we don't want that. So we override that and we provide this permission provided by REST framework. Now, we also need to provide the authentication classes. So we are going to be using simple JWT for authentication. So our authentication class will reference the simple JWT. So come here to the REST framework permissions. So the default permission policy may be set globally using the default permission classes, for example. So this is what I have just added. So if you wonder where I got all those, this is where they are from. If not specified, these settings default to allow unrestricted access. So this is what defaults to, but I've just changed that to say that anyone must be authenticated to access our server. Yes, so you can see we have allow any is authenticated, is admin user is authenticated, or read only. Yes, so that's it. Now let's go back to Djoser now. So in Djoser, let's go to the introduction. So I want everyone to understand whatever is happening. It's better even if we don't do much, but need to understand what is happening here. So REST implementation of Django authentication system. Djoser provides a set of Django REST framework views to handle basic authentication such as registration, login, logout, password reset, account activation, and so on. So these are the endpoints that Djoser provides us with. Okay. So we did install Djoser. I showed you how to install Djoser. And then we get all these for free. We get the slash users endpoint. The slash users gives us all the list of the users. The slash me gives us the current user. This one you have to provide the token. Users confirm, resend activation, set password. So you saw we installed Djoser. We added Djoser in the list of installed apps. Now the next step is to add a URL that will point to Djoser URLs. So I'm going to do that in a little bit. But now they have also, now you can see the Djoser web token authentication. So this is what we are going actually to be using. So now this, you need to add this one into the REST framework configuration. So we are saying default authentication classes, this one you just copy paste, and remember, don't copy paste this one, you add that. That's what we have actually done, this one. So if you are wondering where are these things coming from, that's where they're coming from. So you also need to configure the URLs for the JWT, because the JWT provides some few URLs to use. So now we have the Djoser configuration. The Djoser configuration variable specifies configurations for Djoser. So if I go back to our application, so let me first stop using, let me go back to that so that I can show you the simple JWT. I want to go to the settings. Now this is it. So we have another variable called the simple JWT. You saw why I did import the time delta, because the simple JWT, you can now configure the token, the actual token that is being generated. You can configure the way it is working. You can see we have so many, but I just used some few. So I used two of them actually. We have the first one called the auth header types. Now this one is the prefix for our token. We can add JWT, you can say something like bearer, all that. This one will require to be added in the authorization like this. So authorization and then the key will be JWT, then the space, then the token. Okay, so I hope you understood about that. Now let's go to the Djoser configuration. So the Djoser configuration, now this one will go back to it later, just didn't want to explain too much. So the first one is send activation email true. We are saying if a user logs in, now if a user creates an account, you have to activate that account. So we will send an email to this endpoint. Now we'll send an email to you who have registered, so that you can click on that link that you get, and then you will be activated. We have another URL called activation URL. So the activation URL is the URL that will be sent to the email. I'm going to add the comments here so that so what will it do? We have, remember about, check about this one. So we have the site name. Now the site name is the name that will actually be used in the email. So let me change this one. Maybe I can say YouTube tutorial. Now this is the name that will be used in the email. This is the actual domain that will be used. And then this activation URL, this one, this whole here, will be appended to this domain. and sent to the bucket to the email, and then when you click on that, it will route to our front-end application, which is our React, and then that React will handle that and send the activation endpoint to our server. We have another one called password reset confirm URL. Now this does the same thing, takes in this URL, appends these tokens and UID, adds them into the domain, sends you that link so that you can reset your password. Okay. Now that's it. So the next step to do is to go to the URLs of the app. So if you go to the URLs, so let me first remove all these. So we have the admin URLs. So we need to add more. So let me add a path called activate. So this is just for, you can add this one. So I'm just pointing to the core.urls. So let me show you that in the browser. So with the application progress branch, you can go to the progress branch, then to go to the backend, go to the URLs of the tutorial. So you can simply go here and grab all these so that everything is working as we wanted it to be. So now, so let me import the include just to save on time. So no, let's just write this one so that you can understand what is going on. So we are just saying from the any path that's come from the activate, go to our core.urls. Okay, where is that core.urls? You can simply come here and grab all those URLs. So you can grab these and go here to the core, add a file called urls.py, and then dump that here. So this is our core. So we have two URLs that, so this is how it will work. So we say activate slash exist, and we don't even need to say the slash, but let's first use that. Let's use that for the meantime because that's what I have in my notes. But this URL, you can name it core slash, but I'm going to just leave it as activate because that's what I have in my notes. Because if we start changing, then we also have to change the front end and don't want to do that. So in the URLs, you can simply come here and grab the URLs for, so let me grab everything here so that we don't waste time, that we can directly go to. So what is happening here? So we have this path slash activate. This one is going to our core.url. So where is include core.url? So it will come to the core, then include the URLs that are in the core. So which URLs are in the core? We have the exist and the home. We are going to be creating these by hand, don't worry. So we have another endpoint, so I'm going to remove these, just demonstrate why we need that. So I know you are familiar with this. You can be familiar with this because if we go to Djoser, so go to the Djoser, this one. So to configure our URLs, you can see you add URL in your main URLs pattern. You come and add all these two. So these two, you can just grab them and add them into the file. So these ones here. So this one is to include the Djoser URLs, and this one is to include the Djoser.jwt URLs. Okay, sure. So the next step of is to go to our views module. Actually, also this one we're going to grab from the repository so that I can explain, because we don't want this tutorial to be too long. So let me grab these two. So in our views module, you can grab everything there and remove everything. So we also need a serializers.py file. So let me explain what these views are doing. So we don't need these two. So this is our endpoint. So coming back to our URL, we said if we have the exist. So why did I make these ones? This one is what is used to check if a username is exist. I want to use this one to check if a username is exist when someone is registering. So when you are registering for an account, you go to add your username. We want to check whether that username exists so that we don't let you hustle and finish the filling the form, and then when you submit the server, you get an error that that username exists. Now, when you are typing, you send a request to the exist, and then the exist will tell us whether that username is existing, because we don't want you to finish filling and then going back. So you can see we get the username from the data. If we don't get the username, we return an error. So we grab the username from the data. So this one is a post request. You get that data. So from the request.get data, you can get the data posted to the server. So we use the .get method to get the username, and then we try to check if username.get username if username.objects.get username. I could simply use the .exist, but I don't want to. So we can try this one to check if the username exists. So if it exists, we send a response back saying that the username exists. If it doesn't exist, we send a request saying that it does not exist. So if it does not exist, we allow that user to use that username. But I'm going to leave this one to you guys to work on because we don't have much time. Now, in our settings file, there's a place I told you guys that we needed to add the is authenticated. So everyone must be authenticated to access our server. But the check username, no one needs to be authenticated. So you can override whatever permissions are applied to a specific view using the add permission classes. So I'm using the function-based views. You can see here I switched to a class-based views. You can use whatever you want. It's very easy to do that. But the best thing about, yeah, you can use any you want. Like if it was a model, or just go directly to model view sets. But so in this route, you can see I have overwritten that is authenticated to indicate that anyone can access this endpoint. Now, when we come to the /home, if you remember in our application, frontend application, after successfully logging in, you could see that welcome so and so. So this one actually requires you to be authenticated because it will inherit from the is authenticated from the settings file, the global one. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, we have another one called custom token obtained pair view. So this one is for now. This one I won't talk about this one for now because we are not using it because I did comment it out. So the next file we need is the serializers. I'll also grab the serializers from the repository because I don't want to type all these. There's too much to type. So to save on time, I'm going to grab all these and explain to you whatever is happening here. So because we don't want to be, there's this concept called decoupling, such that a specific app model is, the specific file is dependent on this one. So in case you change this one, you have to change this one. So due to that, there's this helper function called the get user model. So this one doesn't care which your user model is, but whatever it cares is that there must be a user model, so it will get you that user model. So you don't have to be from dot import now. So you just need to use this decorator to get the user. So we have not used this one, we have not yet used this one, and also this one we have not yet used it. So I'll explain to you why we need these ones, but in a little bit more later. So now there's another thing we need to do. So in a Django application, the user model that comes within Django, does not has some few things that we might need to change. So like for instance, if the user model that comes within Django, the email field is marked as blank equals to true, so you can have a blank email. You can also have one person having multiple emails. So no, that raises an issue. That's why me as a developer or anyone else should try as much as possible to inherit from that model and provide your own odd user model. So how do you do that? So you go to the settings. There is this settings called odd user model. So let me show you. So remember to type this one correctly. So you have seen throughout the application, I have not yet made a migration. Why did I not make a migration? Because if I did a migration, it would create database tables for the user model that is defined in Django. I don't want that. So you type this one as it is. So you type auth underscore user model. So Copilot is helping me here. So let me add a comment here. So overwriting the old user model to our own user model to enable customization, making the email field required, such things. So this is what I'm doing. So the old underscore user model used to override the user model that is defined in Django. And then you have to create this model. So I have to go to the models and create the old user model that I want. So now going into the models. So the first step you need to do here is from Django.contrib the from django.contrib.auth.models import abstract user. So the abstract user is the base user for Django. So this is the user model we are talking about. So if you click into a class in or a method that is provided by the application, you can go into the details and see. So I did click here. So this is the abstract user. This one imports from the abstract base user. We can click into this one and see what the abstract base user has. It has a password, login, active, doesn't have much. So let me clear these. So let me go back to the models, click into the abstract user. So what are we doing? So this is the concept of inheritance in Python or OOP framework. So this is the class that is actually responsible for creating the user model. So we are inheriting from this and then customizing it to fit our needs. So you can see we have a username, we have the first name, we have the last name, we have the email. Now look at what the email field they have marked it as. It can be blank and it is not required and it's not unique. Okay, so the email can be blank. We don't want this. So we inherit from this abstract user. So inherit from this abstract user and create your own user class that inherits from the abstract base user. And then, so this is GitHub Copilot doing all this. So we inherit from that, and then we add our email to be unique. We add our isActive class. So for now, I'll have to use the isActive to true. So there is an issue here. If you try to run the migration, is if the isActive is false, and then you create your own super user, the super user will not be active, and you have to go to the. Actually, I can show you that, guys. So let me simply say false. Then you will update that. So now this one is a tricky one, because if you set is active to false and you create a super user, then the super user will not be active and they will not be able to log into the system. So you have to be very careful about this, but I'm going to make that mistake so that you don't have to make the same mistake. So this one we can use to check if person is deactivated and then prevent them from doing anything in our app. So we are almost there doing everything. We're almost there. We have also configured everything that we needed to. So the final file we need to make here is the .git ignore git ignore. I don't think I'll also use this one, but let me just add the, in case someone wants to deploy this, it will be simple. By the way, if you guys want me to deploy this application to Heroku to DigitalOcean, you can just write down so that we can go back and check that. So I think we are pretty much done with all the configurations we need to make, and then what is left is to migrate this application. Manage.py make migration. So then you migrate. Then we can run our server. We have an issue here. Okay. So let me go to the SQL. This one is my Postgres database. So I did fail the password. So if you fail the password in the SQL, you have to. So let me list the databases. So there's a database I want to drop called Djoser. Drop database. Then I create a new database. So I had the same backend configuration, so we have to migrate again. Now that's it. So our migrations has been applied, so we can go to the server and check whether the application is working. So local host port 8123. So the server is not working, or we have not run the server. So Python manage.py run server. So yeah, that's it. So we are inside our application. Let's try going to the, oh, there's another thing we need to do. We need to create our super user. I want to show you why I told you that it's very risky. It's very risky. It's very risky to, it's very risky. So Python manage.py create super user. So we'll say the admin at gmail.com. The password should be admin. I want to override that. Now the super user is successfully created, but we have an issue. Let me show you where the issue is. So the issue is that we have our own user model. And then in our user model, we have said that every user that is created, they will not be active. Even if it's a super user, they will not be active. And if it's who, they will not be active. So which issue will we face? Let's try logging in the admin interface. So this is a Django admin. So password admin username, the password is also admin. We can't log into our system because we specified that the admin, no, we specified that our model, everyone should not be active. So the admin is not active. What do? We are locked out of our own system. how do we do this? Is so this way I was telling you guys that we make mistakes, fix those mistakes. So I hope you're understanding what is happening. We are using our own auth user model provided by Django. We are using mhm, we are providing the Djoser endpoints. So there's some of these that I have commented out. So I'll actually show you that later. So time is flying like something else. So but let's finish up. So we have the auth. These are the Djoser URLs. So if we go here, localhost 8000, port 8123. So we have, what if we go to the URLs, you can see all the URLs that Djoser provides us. So /auth. No, I know it. So all these are the URLs that come with Djoser. So these from here to here, these are from Djoser. These are from JWT. So the JWT/create, this one is for creating users, and by creating we are logging them in. Creating, logging them in. So the /me, all these are coming from Djoser. So the issue we are facing is that we are locked out of our system because we did. So let me close this shells part. So we did say that is active to be. So this is what we did. So we locked ourselves out. So what is the issue? So the issue is to go to the database. That's why I did not want to use SQLite, because SQLite is a bit tricky to start customizing it unless you have something like data grip to use. So I'm logged in my shell. So if you don't know SQL now, this one would be tricky for you because you have to go to the database and update the admin correctly. So let me connect to the database called user. So then I can see, so you can see everything that was created by Djoser. You can see everything that was created by Djoser. You have the core.core_user. So this is our user model that we defined ourselves. Yes, we have that. So select. So if you don't know SQL, let me use the select everything from core_user. So this is our user model. So this one is not looking nice. So I will select some fields. Select. So I want to select the first name. Let me check the ID. Username, first name, is staff, email, and then is active, and then is underscore super user from core_user. So this is SQL. If you don't know SQL, don't worry about anything. So our admin is not active. Okay, you can see this false. So we did bite ourselves. So you can see admin first name we don't have, is staff, yes, is superuser, yes. Now what we need to do? Now we need to update this record manually. So the update is active. So then we set, now we need to specify. So let me, so update core_user, then we set is active. So this one is SQL. You don't know SQL, don't worry, just follow along and don't make the mistake I made. So set is active is equals to true, where id equals 1. So if we run the previous command, so I have just cheated and activated my own user. I've just activated the admin. So this is SQL query. If you don't know SQL, don't worry about SQL. You'll not make the same mistake that I'm making now. So whatever you do is that when starting the application, make sure the is active is true, and then when you create your own super user, then you can return it to false. Okay, so that the admin can log into the system. Now the admin can still say add the others as active or not. So if you come here and try to log in, we can successfully log in. So yeah, you are successfully logged in, and we need to see our users. So what do you do if you need to see your users? Anyone? So if you need to see your users, you need to go to admin. I'll just copy from my notes here, the admin. So what am I doing? I'm using a class and then inheriting from the model admin and then specifying the fields that I want to see in the admin interface. So don't worry about that. So if you refresh here, you can see now the users. Now you can see the how it is nicely formatted. Even this one is cool. You can still use this one to manage everything that you want to the admin, Gmail, everything. You can still deactivate yourself and then you'll be faced by the same issue again, but don't try that at home. So that is it for all of that. Now we can start testing our application. You can see our application is running. You can go to Postman. So if you don't know Postman, so here I'm going to show you 3 URLs that you mostly need to use. So the JWT/create is used for logging in users who are actively there. So we can send a request here, and the request should be post, and then the form data you send the username. So our case, we have the admin and then the password. So the password is admin also. So what will you get back? We get our access and refresh token. So but now we are also faced by an issue here whereby we don't necessarily need 2 details of the we don't also need when someone is logging in, we don't actually need we don't need these 2 details, because by using these 2 details, that means you have to send another request after someone logs in to get the user details. Is this an admin? Which role is this person at? What do you do? Because I don't want to keep sending requests back to the server. So the actual thing that you need to do here is that about try guessing. So what do you need to do? This one is coming from a serializer that simple JWT provides. So what do you need to do if you need to customize this? You need to inherit from that serializer and add your own data that you want there, so that when someone is logging in, we get so much details that we need. So I'm going back to, let me go back to my app here. Now, let me go back to the browser so that anyone can understand. So you see, this route at number 27, this is the, so I hope anyone is seeing, not so much. So there. So I hope everyone is seeing. So this route 27. So how does these routes match? They match one by one. So we need to override this one, but we don't also want to repeat this one and repeat this one. That we implement them ourselves. No. We want to override this one and then provide our own and inject more data into it. So how do you go about that? To go about that is simple. So now you give it the exact path that was given by this is the path we have actually seen, all the JWT/create. So let me go back so that no one says that I'm lying. So all the JWT/create, we are adding a new route on top of these so that our new route matches, and then this one doesn't match. So yes, sure. So we add the same route path so that ours will match, but the JWTs won't match, and then give us our custom pair as view. Okay, where is this custom pair? This custom pair is coming from views.core. So if I go to the core.views, this one is the custom pair. Now this custom pair, we provide it with our own serializer. So we have to go back to the serializer. What are we doing? We are overriding, we are importing the serializer that JWT provides, and then adding more data to it. So after validation of the data from the serializer, so this one is the username and password. So I shown you how to go into inside these applications. You just click and then go and see whatever is implemented. So you can see what they do. They take the token, so they take the token, they grab in the refresh token and the access token and inject that, and then give us that back, exactly what we get here. But we want to add more details. So how do we do that? So we inherit from this and add our own details. So you can do sort of things here. I've added some comment. Let's try some. No, we won't try this one. I wanted to add these ones that you can try, but now we are past 1 hour, and I know guys don't like watching long tutorials. So what are we doing here? So we call the data and then the update. Okay. So let me open a new shell here. Then say Python. So goes to name. This Python name. John. My dict dot update age is equals to the same that. Syntax is errored. Oh no. My dict underscore dict dot update. So we are not using magical things here. So you want to update the age and then say the age is 30. So if you look at my dict, our age has been updated. So that's what I'm using here. So this data that is being returned to the server, we take it, then inject some new. We inject the ID of the user. We get the user from the self.user. We inject the ID, we inject the first name, inject the last name, object, the email is active. And then now when you go back and refresh our view, what should we see? Hooray! We get more details from the server. Isn't it that great? So we get more details from the server. Now you can say if someone is you can check whether this person who is logging in is active or not, and then if they are not active, we give them a toast. We can check if they are deactivated. If they are deactivated, we tell them that your account is deactivated and you cannot do anything else. So the next step is to, this one is actually logging in. So when someone logs in, we grab the access token. So we can simply comment out this one, then go to the headers and add an authorization key. You remember when I was telling you about the prefix? So you add the prefix space and then the actual prefix you want to add. So where is this JWT coming from? So this JWT is coming from our settings.py file, where we are specifying that the authorization has to come with the JWT prefix. So so let me remove the authorization so that we can try going to the home route. So the home route had a route like this one. I remember telling you activate /home. So where is the activate from /home? So in the urls.py, we are saying anything that comes with the activate should go to home. But now we can change this name, but I didn't want to change this name because this is what exactly I had in my notes. And then actually we couldn't even be having the home route in the core app. We could be having another app that is responsible for that. But because this tutorial is about Djoser, you don't need to understand any of those. So activate /home. This one goes to the home view. We go to the views. We have used that. So we go to the views and then this home route. We get that. We just get a response. Welcome to the tutorial. So let's go back to this one. So that means that API endpoint is. So you can see I have switched off the authorization header. The body is not. This one is a get request. So if I try to go to this one, you can see the detail is authentication credentials were not provided. So you are not authenticated to view this. So what do you need to be authorized? You need to supply your authorization header, which have a JWT prefix and then the token. So if you send this one to the server, welcome to the tutorial. We are in. Isn't it that great? The status is okay. You switch this one off. What happens? Authorization credentials are not provided. We switch on. We are logged in. So we are successfully logged in. So we have another endpoint to list the users. So now here we are faced with another issue. We might need more details of the user. What do we actually now want? What do we do? Let me show you another one we oftenly use to get the current user's detail. Now see, we have faced the same issue that we faced. We are faced with the same issue that we are faced by the activation endpoint, whereby we have few details, but we need actually more details. So what do? It's pretty much simple. We override whatever Djoser provides us, and then so Djoser actually provides us with settings. We don't have to override the nini. So you can see here the serializers. You come here and override the serializers and provide your own serializers. So I had these already made. So when a user is being created, this is what we will be using. So let me first remove this one. So the current user is the /me endpoint, which gives us the current logged in user. You see what we are getting here, but I'm coming and overriding that. So after overriding that, I give it my core.serializers.user serializer, and then I have another one for user. So for the user is for listing the users. So let me show you where the serializers are. So user serializer. So I can inherit from the, you see, from users.serializer user create, and then we have the user serializer. So we inherit from the user serializer, which I have used an alias name of base user serializer, and then I come and add more fields. I want the ID, first name, last name, email, username is active, is deactivated. Then I can come here and do some simple validation. So yes, you can see doing some actual validation. So we have provided our own user serializer, and now when we come to the /me endpoint, we have more details. Now we can see whether this person is deactivated. We can see whether they are active. We can see whether they are their name, their email. You can add more fields as you want to. And then even if we go to the /users endpoint, you see now we still have a list of users. Then we can see the email, the status is active. Yeah, we get more details. So I hope you got that point. So we have another one. So another serializer that I'm using, which is called localhost 8133 all/users. Now we have another one here. So in case you are creating a new user, you might want more fields from here. What do? You just go and override the implementation of the Djoser. When a user is being created, we want more fields. So we come and provide our own serializer, which is from users. So we come and provide our own user create serializer. We add some first name, last name, and yes. So when we come and refresh, we get all those details exactly as you wanted. So this one is for user creation. Now, let's now go dive deep into user creation, actually creating a user. So we have my email here. Just copied that email. Go back to Postman. So I'm just going to create a new. So this is the endpoint for creating users, the auth/users. So where is that auth/users coming from? So the auth/users is coming from, let me show you real quick. So the auth/users is coming from Djoser. So you see from auth, we first include the Djoser.urls. So the URLs from Djoser is providing the URLs for user creation. But in our case, we are providing our own serializer. So go back to Djoser settings. So we go to now we go to the base endpoints. Then you can go to the users. So you see, whatever path we provide, we give it the and then the /users, and then in the request Username, provide the username, provide the password, and then the re-enter password and the first name and the last name in case we want to. So this is the post request to the /users endpoint. That's exactly what I'm doing here. So I go to the /users endpoint, go to the body, then I want to create a new user. So username will be, let me go to the email. So this is the email, then I'll go, the username, I'll just use the first letters of the email. So Sibakayas, and then the password. So I can use a random password. Which password should I use? So I don't know whether I have some passwords to use. Let me go here and create random password generator, generate a password here real quick. Don't want these. Generate. No, I don't want uppercase. I don't want a very long password. Let me reach here to the G. Control. Come here to the postman. Add that in, and then supply the G as caps, and then something like that one. So you can use this one. So this one is for creating a user. Control C, send. So our user has been created, and then we get this data. If we go to the admin, refresh this one, we get the user has been created. Let's try logging in using this user. So logging in, we said you are going to the auth/JWT/create. Then we post the username and the password. Then see, your account not activated. So you actually need to activate your account to be able to use to log in. How do you activate the account? So let's go back. Hooray! Isn't this great? We got an email from our own app. So let's click into this one. Yay! How good is this? How good is this? Yes, how good is it and how great is this? So we get an email saying, go to this endpoint and activate this user. Okay, now this endpoint, I'm providing my own front-end endpoint, but we can still activate this user from the postman. We need to send a slash. So we need to send a post request. So let me see the post request that we need to send. So let me go to the front end and see the user slash. So which endpoint was that? Auth/activate. So we go to the auth pages, auth/activation, then see which endpoint this one is hitting. So activate user, go to the user's query, activate. So we are sending a request to the to this, copy these, go back to postman and doing like that, and then postman, we want to activate this guy. So localhost, so users, and then provide that all the user/activation. Then in the body we need the form data. So let's see the user/activation endpoint in Djoser. I want to show you how. So you see the user/activation UID and then token. We provide the UID and the token. So very fast. So we have the UID and the token from the email. So we provide the UID and the token. So let me come and grab the UID here. So let me copy this link. Don't know how I'll paste this link. So I'll copy this one in a notepad and then grab the UID. So my UID is equals to this one, then my token is equals to this one. So we are supposed to send this request and then we should be activated. So we send, or we should send a post request. So my bad. So if you don't get any response, but we get a 200 no 204 note content, that means we don't have any content to return, but that means that person is activated. So if we go back and try to log in with this user should be activated. So we send, boom, this is another user we have. So it's very much easy to do that. So if we go back here to our admin and refresh, so we have the Sibaya buyer is active. So we have just activated that person using Postman. So the final thing I'm going to touch on is the reset password. So the reset password you have to send. So so we want to user activate. So this one is for activation. I want to reset the password. Okay, so we are going to send a request to the user slash reset password and then provide our email. We want to set to reset the password for this user. This user for, so this is our user. We want to reset the password for them. And then this endpoint just requires the email field. So just turn this off and use the email. So I don't know whether I can remember the email. So the email was juicypayapaya at something, this one. And then if you send a request to this, should you should reset that password for that user. So we don't get a new content, then we should check the email and see whether we have a new email that is popping up. So let's wait. So boom, we have a new email that is coming from Django. We still get the same issue, but now we have another endpoint. Okay, so we need reset password confirmation. So this is the URL we need for password, a person who is resetting the password. So this one, Control C, we grab that. This one is the reset password confirmation. What does it want? It wants the UID token. We don't want the email, so we can remove the email. We need a new password. So everything I'm getting from here, I'm not even thinking about it. So we need the UID token, new underscore password, and then renew. Okay, so we don't need the renew. So you can see here if password retype is required, but we don't need that. So new password. So the previous password that I used was this. Is what I used, this one, JS to GGG something. But now I'm going to just think of a username. So let me say something like that. So I'm resetting this user's password now. Before even I do this, so you see, this is the current user. We are logging him in the Sibaya with the previous password, and this one is successful. So let's reset our password and see what will happen. So we need the UID. The UID should come from this one. So let me copy this one again. So the UID is MG still, but the token is a BVCIG. So it is changed. So Control C. Then we send this request. So I missed some typos there. So the password has been reset. So let's go and check. If we try to log in with our previous password, whether it will work. It's not working. What if we provide the new password that we have just used? So that's it. We are in. So this is how the authentication workflow works in Djoser. So finally, I'm going to connect this one with the front end, and then all the other details. If you have any question, you should be willing to ask these questions, because that's it for what I was supposed to show you guys. So let me cd into my front end. So this is my front end application. So now the front end is doing a request to the server, not the request to server. So the front end is actually connected, getting the token, storing that into the local storage, doing the authentication workflow. If you are authenticated, you cannot access the auth. If you are previously authenticated, all that is hooked up. And I remember when starting the tutorial shown you, you can see the base URL. Now you can see everything is connected. So let me exit out of this, then see deactivate this. So cd front end. So then you can start the server using yarn run dev. So this one is React. So localhost port. So I want to change the email so that we can do the workflow one more time. So let me wait. So I get a new user, so I can use that one in my front end. So I can use this one. You can see now we can't go to the home route. This one is actually connected to our application, and then we want to sign up. Starting the sign up, we give a username. Let me start with the email so that I can simply use not that one. I've not even copied the email. So this person is called Saleki. So I can simply use that. So the password, what do I use for the password? So I like using the random password so that I don't. So I want like 8. Stop. Generate this. I don't want. I think this one should work. I come here and then add that. So I think it doesn't want that. So let me just say this password must contain at least one uppercase letter, one lowercase letter, and one number. Oh, so I have to add a number here. That's not okay, but so let's sign this person up. So registration successful. Check your email for verification. Let's go back to our app. Let's go back to our backend. So you can see a request here. This is a post request, the /all/users. I hope everyone can see. So the /all/users. You can see the previous time I was trying to go to the login. So this is actually our own server that is running. So in case someone thinks that someone might think, hey, no, this is not your app. This one is the previously made app. So I want to show you that this one is actually working. So we have a username Saleki, then the password. Did I save that password? That would be very wrong. Okay, I did. So you see, you are unauthorized. You need to activate your own email. How cool is that? That's very cool. So we go to our temporary mail, and exactly you get your own activation email. Now we'll actually click this one and see. So Let me copy this one so that because I don't want to move from this tab. And then this is the endpoint we are going through. So if we click this one, email activation. So I don't know why this one said email activation failed, but the email is activated. You can log in. So we try logging in with select key. So the password was this one. Saleki is logged in. And then if Saleki tries to go to the other route, you can't. Welcome home, Saleki. You can't. You have to log out. You log out, now Saleki forgets their password. So the email was Saleki, this one. We want to reset our password. So we send a request to the check your email for password reset. So if you go back, you can see we have an auth user/reset password. So the next step is to stop at the temporary mail. So this is a temporary mail, and let's just wait. So we have a new. You are receiving this email because you registered a password for your user account at youtube.com. Get this link. So actually, this one, I'll just click this one. We are taken into our front end in a place where we can change the password. So I want the password to be. I love Django. I love Django. I love APIs. So this is the password I'm going to use. Confirm. Also, if you can note, we have automatic validation. So this one is called React hook form in React, but this is not, don't worry about that. So we reset our password. Our password was reset. If we try logging in select with our previous password, so our previous password was something like this one. No active account for the given credentials. But if we give if we give them this one, it should be logged in. Okay. So I think that's the workflow. You can't go back. You can log in as an admin. Yeah, so that's it guys for this tutorial. I hope you did learn something for Djoser. This application is so even if you refresh in the admin, you can see Saleki is activated, and we can deactivate Saleki. Actually, let's see what will happen if we deactivate Saleki. Is deactivated. We deactivate Saleki. We go here. So admin is logged in. We want to log in as Saleki, and then the password for Saleki was I love APIs. Account deactivated. So that's why I told you, you override the serializers, you do all that, and then everything is into place. So the account is deactivated. You can add any field you want. You can do whatever thing you want. So all the code for this tutorial is here in this repo. Go to this repo, bonfist21/Djoser-tutorial. I'll add this one into the description. Go there. You can also start this repo. You can fork this repo, whatever you want. You can follow this account to get more updates. And then see you next. So I'll see you next in the next tutorial. So if this tutorial did help you, you can go on and subscribe to this channel, and see you next. Thank you guys.